This is the Average to Savage podcast with Paul Guarino. Everyone and anyone, athletes, celebs, and much more.
Today's episode is brought to you by BUSR.com. You know, everyone always asks me where they should bet, and now I got a solution for them. BUSR.com/Paul. You deposit $100, they'll match your $100 in free bets, so you basically get $200. Go check it out, BUSR.com/Paul. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Average Savage podcast. Our special guest today is photographer Miles Witt Boyer. A little background. Usually I don't do this, but I'll give a little background because, you know, things randomly happen, and this interview randomly happened. I was at a wedding last week. Everybody knows I've been to do a lot of weddings this summer. And you were the photographer, and I knew Mike Lamazani. He flew you out from Arkansas, and I was confused why. But then I figured out why. Once you were there, I understood the mission, and I understood why after seeing you. And and I think, you know, obviously, I think a lot of people's photography, you know, could stick out and things like that. But I think it was obviously like your personality and things like that that set you apart probably from other photographers.
Dude, that's like the greatest intro ever. Can I just get that little piece of recording sent over to me so I can use that for like,
Yeah,
I don't know,
sure. You want a
everything.
testimonial
For everything from now on, if that's good. Yeah, dude, I'm stoked to hang with you. First off, it was a good wedding. Secondly, don't expose the long con. People fly me all over the world for weddings, man. So we want people to assume that it's actually worth the investment, even though, you know, come on, like,
yeah,
I just get paid to party.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know, being from Connecticut and, you know, close to New York, like I would just think like, you know, it'd be easy to find someone around here.
Oh yeah.
So,
you know what? I actually moved to Arkansas from New York, so a lot of my good friends are still, you know, close to the city, and there's definitely a lot of talent. But you know, it really is the same like across almost all creative industries. People are leaving the coasts like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too expensive to do life.
Yeah.
Like none of us got into wedding photography so that we could, you know, like grind out 16-18 hour days. Like we all just want to chill and have fun and make enough money to like see the world, right? So
yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely during Corona, a lot of people from New York moved to Connecticut, so it's crazy.
Or Florida.
Now.
All my clients live in Florida now, man. Like everybody's like, oh, you don't have to wear a mask down there? Oh, there's no virus in Florida. Who knew?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Okay, part two. We're coming back for part two, man. I told you I do a lot of podcasts. I'm just going to talk in circles. We're going to make this happen.
Maybe we should just do a podcast. I don't know. Maybe we could just
together.
Bullshit.
I can be average and you can be savage.
There you go. All right. Well, let's just go back in time. How did you get started with photography?
Dude, there's a golden question. That's the one that everybody asks, and I should have a great answer, and I just never do. Man, I took a job, my first job that I ever took. I was 15 years old. I worked as a darkroom technician and carrying gear for a wedding photographer. And I did that like all the way through high school for just long enough for me to like swear out loud that I would never shoot weddings ever. Actually, my senior thesis in art school was a paper written about how wedding photography was killing the industry. Like it was the thing that was like pulling the soul out of the photo industry. But yeah, dude. So I mean, I've been working, you know, at least in some capacity in this field since I was a kid, and kind of danced around a lot, man. I worked for a whitewater rafting company for a while as a tourist photographer, which was kind of dope. I just kayaked all day. And then I worked for a rock climbing company for a little while, doing basically the same thing. Moved to New York and worked for a fashion, like a modeling agency essentially, and shot a couple of big campaigns and kind of got my name sort of on the board just enough for me to realize like that's not what I wanted my life to look like. Mm-hmm. And then just coincidentally about the same time I met my wife, and she was an Arkansas girl with this like super cute Southern drawl and this like kind of hot swag for college football and slow living, and just like that's what she wanted out of life, and there was something really attractive about it. So she was right. She said, come to Arkansas. It's the greatest place in the country to own a small business. And she's not wrong, man. It's a great, like, it's definitely a great place to be. So that, there you go. There's 15 years of career in 30 seconds.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Arkansas, so I guess I got to check it out one day. But how did you I don't know, where did you grow up? That's
New Mexico, actually.
Okay.
In the mountains in northern New Mexico. I was just a ski kid. My dad's an archaeologist, or was, I guess, an archaeologist. My mom was an art teacher, so I just sort of grew up like artsy and, you know, kind of obsessed with sports. And so that was the only like outlet for me was I need a place where I can play soccer and learn photography. That's kind of, you know, life goals. And then I grew up and I ditched soccer. Well, I didn't ditch soccer. I just blew out both of my knees.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha. And then, so you said you went to art school. So is that like a college, or like, what is that?
yeah. I went to a private, it's just a liberal arts university called John Brown University. It's a killer school, but it's one of the better photography programs in the country. And like I said, that was the big thing for me, was find a school that I could play soccer at, and that, you know, I would walk away. There's no longevity in being a soccer player. That's just not a thing. So that I could walk away with a great art degree, and that happened. I mean, the soccer didn't last long. Like I mentioned, I blew my knee pretty quick, but I was kind of teed up to have a great career because I went to a great program. So. And a lot of my employees, a lot of the guys that worked for me over the last 10 years have also come out of that program. I was a professor there for a little while. So I kind of recruited my own staff for a little while right out of school. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, all right. So do you think being a photographer, being like creative, like, do you think college was necessary?
Man, I want to say yes, because I want to believe in that system. And, yeah, I read a statistic the other day. It was like a Wall Street Journal report. So you'd think at least relatively legit that the stats of guys going to college right now are like the lowest they've been in like the last 100 years or something like that. Like, it's just not happening anymore. And I want to believe that the idea of like going to a professional school is a really valuable thing. I also want to believe that going to an art school where you're surrounded by people that can pour into you creatively and try and inspire you to kind of like expand your own ability is also a good thing. But the truth of the matter is, I've been kind of behind that curtain, and there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of decisions that are being made that aren't necessarily in the student's best interest. Mm-hmm. And, they're kind of in the interest of prolonging the program or expanding the program or whatever. So, short answer, no, I really don't. I think in this day and age, you can probably, in a creative field, you can probably forego college if you're ambitious enough to teach yourself what you would have learned. But I'll second that answer by saying I have met very few people in my career that are ambitious enough or disciplined enough to teach themselves much of anything except for a lot of bad habits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you too, just because like I go back and forth with it, because I just think about it all the time. Like, as I get older, I feel like it's just less and less like valuable, I guess, to me, that I went, besides like the networking aspect. And like you said, like, I think college should be, instead of the 4 year, I think they should get rid of the 4 year and just do like a 2 year and whatever your major is, because the first 2 years is usually just prereqs and things like that.
Yeah, and you're basically learning things. I mean, here's the problem is there's no standardized level of, like, truly standardized level of what you should have learned in high school.
Yeah.
And so you spend the first 2 years trying to get everybody on a level playing field. And all that really does is, what I've noticed is it takes the top end of the class and brings them down, and it gives the bottom end of the class a chance to rise up. And, it's not like there's a discount on those 2 years. Yeah. So, I kind of agree with you. I think it's at some point you've got to ask people to just sort of like dive in and make a decision for what their life is going to look like. But I mean, man, you've only got to be around people our age for 5 minutes to realize that most people, and I mean that genuinely, I think most people make it all the way through their adult life just reacting to whatever circumstances are around them having no idea what they want their life to look like. And they wake up at retirement age and realize that, you know, at best they've saved enough money to retire, but their entire adult life is behind them. So,
yeah, for sure. Maybe one day you'll open up your own school for photography.
No, man. Come on, don't put that on me. No, I do a lot of trainings though. I do a lot of teaching and mentoring, and I speak at conferences kind of all over the country. And, we sort of blessed at this point to have enough of a reach because of my endorsements and some awards and stuff that we've won, that for whatever reason, people will listen. And so while that wave is in front of you, I feel like kind of have the responsibility to say the right things. So.
Yeah. So tell me when your first wedding was that you did, and then tell me like what your big break was, and like you got to like quit your job and start your own business.
Oh yeah. So first wedding, this is a funny story, man. The first wedding that I shot, I was 16 years old. I worked for a photographer named Jill Caven, and man, I did not want to be at a wedding. I had no interest, dude. But this is how every good man's story starts, dude. The girl that I was crushing on hard was also was an assistant for her. And so I get this call that's like, hey, we're gonna go to this wedding in Santa Fe. I could use a second assistant, and like this girl will be there. And so I'm like, okay. And then she tells me, I'm not gonna sell how old I am, but this was, like pre-2000, right? So then she tells me that she's going to pay me $20 an hour on top of that. And I'm like, I'm done. Like, yeah, I get to spend all day with this girl and getting paid for it. Like, let's go. And I never even saw my photos from that wedding. I guarantee they were horrible. I was definitely not focused on what I should have been. Honestly, that was a circus of a decision, but anyway, so between there and the end of college, though, there was like a handful of weddings, mostly for friends or like people that really couldn't afford an actual photographer and were willing to take a risk on this like cocky photo student that was like, yeah, how hard could that be? That was really how I developed that opinion on the fact that it's like, man, this is trash. Like wedding photography is horrible. And then after college, I mentioned there was some stuff, kind of moved to New York, kind of moved around and met my wife. But in 2009, we decided like, I'm going to kind of start this company and kind of dive in and like do this for real. And, it took me probably 3 years realistically of just sort of floating on my personality. I don't know how else to say that. It's just true. Like I just was like floating on the fact that like I could just sort of charm people and make them happy, and the photography needed to catch up. Like the actual work needed to catch up with the fact that I was like good at talking people into hiring me. But by 2012, we'd kind of started to sort of take over this area a little bit, and regionally people kind of knew the name, and the brand started growing, and so I was getting some exposure there, and that's when ironically, I kid you not, like the wedding that you and I just met at last week was a downline from a wedding that I shot in, I think it was 2011, maybe 10 or 11. I shot a wedding in Vermont that was like a total fluke. They hired me. I was in way over my head, but I was like, yeah, I mean, let's go. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful wedding. And we ended up getting the cover of New England Weddings magazine from that. And everything just sort of blew up from there, man. Once you get a couple of good covers, like life changes rapidly. And so, yeah, so that downline kind of clientele started. And what's wild is here we are 10 or 12 years later or whatever. I can literally trace the wedding that you and I were at last weekend to that couple. Like I can see that line all the way down, and every couple that kind of sat in the way. And so, man, we've been to, Canada and Iceland and Turks and Caicos and Napa and everywhere with that group of people, just with that line of people kind of all over the world now. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, they always say still, no matter what, word of mouth is still the best referrals.
Yeah, who cares about everything? The other thing is like, if you get referrals from somebody else, you've got to sell them all over again.
Yeah.
But man, when somebody tells you that you can trust somebody else, like you want to believe in them. So yeah, I just haven't messed it up yet.
Yeah, I don't know if you even knew. After the pictures at the whatever you want to call it, the ocean spot, Max, or the kid on the jet ski, came up to Max and was like, "I'm doing my first wedding tomorrow. Like, you got any advice?"
No, that's awesome. That's
Yeah, so
cool,
it was like
man.
that's like a full like circle thing when you were just
Yeah.
saying all that stuff, and I was just like, it was kind of crazy because like the kid just came up to him, and I wanted Mike to get on the jet ski and take some pictures. But
I did too, man. I just didn't want to push
We-
too hard. I'm like that.
we kind
that goes
of should
badly.
have, because he had the other suit, so.
I just have to watch my liability a little bit on that, right? Like, if it's my idea and the guy drowns, who's liable for that decision? But dude, that's awesome. You know what's interesting actually? Where that place that we were at, Glen, what's that? Glen Island?
Yeah,
something like Glen Island Park, something like that.
Yeah, that's what it is.
What's really interesting is I posted an Instagram story like right at sunset, of me walking back to the shuttle to catch you guys, to like catch up with the guys. Is when you guys were all smoking those cigars behind the shuttle. Mm-hmm. And a photographer that has been following me for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, wrote me, he was on the other end of the park shooting a wedding at the same time.
That's wild.
I've never met him. I mean, he's written back and forth to me a few times, but he was there at the same time. Dude, it's just such a, like, this industry is so much smaller than you think it is.
Yeah.
I feel like every industry, like, there's 10 million people in everything that you do. And then by the time you elevate to a point where something is actually valuable about it, there's very few people that actually kind of hang in those spaces. So
the world is definitely small. I'm sure there's probably somebody's wedding that you did that I possibly know or something like that. Like, it's
guaranteed.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So yeah, dude, I don't know. I want to, as part 2 of this thing, when we launch our own podcast, I want to know your story, man. I want to hear the whole thing. Like, I know you give a mean speech. I've heard that now.
Oh God. I gave
solid.
I gave myself a 6.
That was, I mean, I give you a 6 too, but I don't know if you have a 10. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I feel like 6 is topped out. So
6 out of 10
in that. Just rest in that.
It's not good.
No, I'm just playing, man. It was solid. It was really good. Like,
all right. So this is what the backstory of that was. Lath, who was other best man, we agreed to cut out stuff, and he didn't cut out anything, but I cut out a lot.
what a punk, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll clip this and send it to him.
That's right. That's right. Send this over and be like, yeah. I mean, he held you back. There was no doubt there. Dude, no, I'm serious. I get to hear a lot of speeches, and a lot of people ask me for like my advice on that, just because I've heard 500 speeches now or whatever. And typically I tell people that I'm like, just eliminate inside jokes. They're dumb. Even the people that they're meant to be told to, nobody laughs at them. So like, eliminate the inside jokes. And then, don't spend the whole time just poking fun at the dude. Like, it's his day. Like, let him shine a little bit. It's okay to, like, you don't have to flirt with him to like raise him up a little bit and kind of give him some credit. And man, you did that. Like, it was solid. It was a good speech all the way around. And you know what's even more important than the actual speech? I took really dope pictures of you giving it. And so nobody remembers the speech. Those. They're just going to remember the pictures.
Yeah, good. I could post the pictures instead of the video.
Done. And then you can say to everybody, this is the world we live in. You can just caption it with, I gave the best speech ever. Fight me.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I just like my whole thing in just life is just being real. Like, I didn't want to talk like, like it's an essay form. Like, I just wanted to talk regular, like how I had to talk. And that's what I did. Even though it was short, but whatever. And so yeah, and then just going back to weddings and in general, like, I know so how many weddings have you shot total, you think?
I never know how to, I don't know, but we have people that are like, how do you not have
like over 200?
Oh yeah, over 500.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, a lot.
Have you been in all 50 states?
42 states, and
you got that down.
And I think 16 countries, something like that. Yeah, a lot, man. Like, we had one season where we did 19 states, in one season. Like, it's nuts. I've actually peeled back a little bit on the travel, over the course of the last few years, even before COVID, just because my kids are getting older, and dude, it sucks to miss like soccer practices and games. And what I think the hardest thing about being a creative in that situation is like, I want to be so present, but I'm so distracted.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've pulled back a little bit, but for a while there, it was like full steam ahead on like, have camera, will travel. I never did the like weird van life thing. That's a thing right now. And I've never been I'm too bougie for that. I'm like, man, I need a hot shower and a really solid dinner and a good whiskey, or I'm not there. But
yeah, for sure. Like what's like your average, like what's your goal in the beginning of the season to like how many like weddings you want to do, or like
I cap it at 25. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is still, a lot more than most people in the industry will shoot. I think we've just gotten more efficient. It doesn't, it doesn't slow me down. I did one season where I did 42 weddings and 44 weddings. And that was 2016. And that was just way too much. I couldn't keep up, and the editing load alone was too much. And I refuse to outsource that stuff. That's pretty common, but I want to keep it all in house and do it all right. So yeah, I cap it at 25 now. And every time, we get an inquiry beyond that, somebody in my team takes it. And so 2019, we had 76 weddings as a company. That I oversee it all, but only 25 of them were mine. So, yeah.
Gotcha. What about like, what happens when like one of your friends is getting married? Like, do you do it, or like do you get your other people to do it?
I try. It's sort of case by case.
Yeah.
It sort of depends on what that friendship looks like, and if I can sense any any weakness there. This is an oddly intimate relationship that you end up building. And it's not like I sit around and watch Nicholas Sparks movies, man. Like, I'm not like this weird diehard romantic. It's a business, like I love my job. I love being a creative, but like, I didn't get into this so that I could like make shadow puppets of hearts on the wall. So a lot of times my close friends will call because they know that they're going to get like a very real experience out of me, but that doesn't mean they're getting a discount, because the work is the same kind of no matter what. And so I kind of deter a lot of friends from hiring me if at all possible. One, I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, dude, I'm kind of expensive. And I don't know if I would pay for me. I don't know can I say that? I'm just kidding. That's not true. I totally would. But two, honestly, I don't know. I don't want to muddy the water with good friends. So what I end up telling everybody is like, Mike and Christina being a perfect example, all of my clients end up becoming friends, but I don't love it when life happens the other way around.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I was more so saying like of you missing the wedding technically, because you'll be working.
Oh yeah. I miss them all the time. Yeah.
No, I mean like, so it's your friend's so I'm saying, all right, say it's your good friend, right?
Yeah.
And they want to hire you to do their wedding, but you're like, nah, like you're my good friend. Like I want to enjoy it and be there and not work it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, has that happen?
No, no, because here's, if this says anything, I've only been a groomsman once in the last 10 years. If I'm going to be at the wedding, I want to hold the camera. Right. And that's not me being like overly confident or cocky. It's just me saying like I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is a fairly narrow field of people that do it kind of at this level. And there's a lot of people that do it a lot better than I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like there's some photographers out there that just blow my mind. But there's not a lot of like, Uncle Bob photographers on the corner out there that are going to outshoot me. And so, if I'm going to be there, whether I'm paid or not, if I'm going to be there, I'd love to be the guy that's, helping capture and control and make sure that those memories and all of that is safe. But I have missed a lot of friends' weddings because they hired another photographer to invite me to come to their wedding. And then I had an opportunity to, shoot a big wedding elsewhere. And it's like, well, I mean, it's hard to say no to guaranteed income so that I can spend money to go to, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, for sure. No, totally.
I think you get jaded by it too, man. It's like, I feel like if I I'll put it this way. I feel like if I sat courtside every single game, like every game, and then somebody were to try and charge me to go see another team play that I didn't love as much, I'd be like, I'm good actually. I'm okay. I mean, I get VIP at every wedding. I eat first, I dance first, I chill with the couple back, like, so to be a guest for me sometimes is like from a personal perspective, I love to support them, but it's not as much fun.
Gotcha. Yeah, being the groomsman thing, like I was in 3 this year, and I'm like, at this point I'm retired.
Call it. He pulled the hat trick and he's done.
Yeah, pretty, like that was just too much stuff. That was crazy.
Yeah,
I went to 5 weddings, and that was like, because I only probably been, like, as an adult, I'm saying, like, I've only been to like probably like 2 or 3, and then going to 5 in one, basically 2 months. I was just like, wow, this is like nuts.
Yeah, I went to 5 last month, man.
That's your job.
It is definitely my job.
So yeah, getting to that, like, all right, you got to tell me, like, what has been, like, give me your top, I don't know, 3 or 5 like best ones or like craziest ones.
Man, for me, this is a weird question to answer, because so much about it, I've been doing it for so long. So much about it is about the client, like the relationship that I have with them.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, I've seen some wild things, like some absolutely beautiful, like $1 million weddings at a weird farm in Vermont that Jay-Z and Beyonce were staying at the same time. Right. Like, and I did one 3 weeks ago now. That was like, $1 million wedding at a $1 billion art museum. Right. Like, and the first look happened, I kid you not, the first look happened like next to an Andy Warhol. I mean, like, just nuts, like absolutely nuts stuff like that. But none of that, I'll say this, like, none of that to me doesn't really add value to like whether or not I enjoy it or whether or not I feel creative or inspired by it. I did a wedding just a few years ago in Iceland for a good friend of mine. He was my trainer actually at the time. After my last knee surgery, he kind of like nursed me back to health. And
so you do have good friends.
Yeah, I've got like 1 or 2, but he was a trainer. So we already had that relationship. Like, I was his client and then he was mine. And anyway, like that was just insane. That was epic. Like 80-mile-an-hour winds and blowing waterfalls and like some of the craziest things I've ever seen. Or I did a wedding in, I think, 2017 at the base of an active volcano in Guatemala. So dude, the scale is just all over the board, whether or not it's like me dancing with 1,000 people in New York or me, like walking hand in hand with my wife up the side of a mountain in Canada with just like 2 people. But dude, I've sort of seen it all at this point, and I love, I will tell you what I love. Like, I love the chill, like the real, I love the real, the couples that are just, man, they're just smitten and they're cheesy and they're just like dripping with bad love poems and like they're here for it, right? And they're just in this time in their life that's like, let's just go right now. Let's get out of here and let's go get married. When I have the opportunity to be alongside that, it's so much more fun for me to say like, hey, I don't care that it's raining. Let's go get wet. Or whatever, or your dress got dirty, who cares? Like, the only reason you even wanted the white dress was so he'd think you were pretty. So the fact that it's a little dirty on the back doesn't matter. Let's go. So
yeah, for sure. What about, have you done any like famous people's weddings?
I have, but I don't kiss and tell, man.
You can't tell me.
I mean, off the air. No, I've got a few NDAs and stuff like that. But yeah, we've shot some athlete weddings and some, more well-known people, some actors not a ton. That's that's not really the demographic that I go after. I've got a couple of friends in Southern California that like, that's what they shoot, when Mariah gets married for the 14th time or whatever, I know who she's, she's going to call. I'm just kidding. So I'm sorry, Mariah. But I mean, that's just not me. I won't get that call. I keep waiting. Like, Ally Love got engaged from Peloton and I was like, come on. I mean, I ride alongside you all the time, but she never called. I don't know. Bieber never called either. No matter how many times I stream that album.
I could refer you to some people.
Well, there you go, dude. All right, let's go. Let's
Like
let's
I
do
actually,
it.
random fact, I actually did some social media work for a guy that shoots in he lives in Bora Bora and he's a photographer.
Cool.
And like the same thing when I was like, and he told me all these like dope people he shot, and I was like, oh, you guys like send me those and like we could post them and it'll be dope for like social media. And then he's just like, oh yeah, like like a majority of them signed NDAs, so we can't post them.
Yeah,
So
it
I was just
doesn't.
like, dang.
Yeah, it doesn't happen like that. I mean, typically
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing because like in the just sort of the normal world, right? Like our life,
Yeah.
you can like convince the bride that the value is in like more photographers, more videographers. Like let's add production, let's add hours. In those weddings, it's funny. They're like, hey, can you show up for 4 hours completely by yourself? Leave without saying bye and never tell anybody that you took these pictures. And it's a totally different, I mean, it's a different world altogether, but I don't blame
Wait, so
it.
you got hired before and they're like, just don't talk to us at all. Just take pictures.
No, not so
Oh.
much that. I mean, because I usually like, I wouldn't take that wedding. Like,
Yeah.
I would say no to that couple. It doesn't matter who they are. I don't know.
Yeah.
If Bieber called, I'd probably go for it. Look at me. But now, dude, I mean, I have been in situations for sure where it's like, hey, this is a very intimate wedding, very affluent couple. There's only like 25 people invited and there's one pink elephant in the room and he's holding a camera.
Mhm.
Right. So it's sort of like, kind of get in, do the best job you can to sort of blend in. But then, like when you feel like you've got a really good handle of the photos, feel free to just sort of duck out when you're ready.
Yeah.
For sure. That's fine too. It's not my wedding. I mean, I just try not to go into these things with a ton of ego, if I'm honest. Like,
Yeah.
I want the people to feel like they hired somebody that's going to take care of them and love on them. And man, whatever that looks like, whether that's us dancing in a big, wild, that place was called the Surf Club. That's like false advertising, man. You walk in and it's like a giant baby grand piano and dual staircases. It was like the bougiest. I did not expect that. I was thinking like tiki. I don't know. I thought we'd all be taking shots of tequila off.
I didn't know. I knew it was nice. I just didn't know why the name was that name. Yeah, it didn't make sense.
I didn't either, especially that it's in a bay and there's not even like a ripple. So it was an interesting thing. The place was really cool though. So Surf Club, I will come back. I will be more prepared next time though. But it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Yeah. But that's like a perfect example of, I end up in these like ballrooms sometimes that like, I just didn't expect it. Because every picture that you see on their website is like outside in that beautiful space down by the beach. So I was thinking that, and then we walk in and I'm like this giant chandeliers and it's a ballroom. I'm like, all right, curveball, set up some lighting and let's go.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's why. And just like going back to like networking, things like that's how we got connected to the wedding. So I'm sure you made like so many connections just from going, like not just the bride and groom and things like that. And that's why when I was just talking about the Bora Bora thing, and that's where they actually went for their honeymoon, Mike and Christina. And then I was like, yo, if you need a photographer out there, I actually know a guy. And he thought I was kidding. And I was just like, no, dude, I actually like know a photographer out there.
That's super cool. And you really should connect them. That'd be really fun.
I mean, I asked, we didn't do it. He's probably booked right now. Well, then again, but I don't know. Cause Corona, everyone's like not, everything's not open. So who knows?
It cocould still happen. That's really neat though. Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal to me. You got to see that firsthand. I want to make sure when we're at a wedding that, that everybody, maybe not like the extended guests. I can only like spread ourselves so thin, right? But that everybody that's in the wedding party, all the family, everybody feels like they have access to us as photographers to capture what needs to be captured. And so I spent a lot of time just hanging out with the groomsmen and hanging out with the bridesmaids. And there's a lot of time, you got to see this, a lot of time spent with me just setting the camera down. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of discipline for a lot of photographers to do that because they're perpetually afraid they're going to miss something. But it's like, well, there's a lot of tact. There's a lot of wisdom in saying like, hey, it would be better for a couple to have like amazing memories and potentially not have a picture of that than to go through an entire day where all they did all day long was just go from like photo shoot to photo shoot,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm sure you know this already, but like, like I've even seen it just like, even like when I post content of like, you say it's like it was a photo shoot or something in like the gear I have and stuff like that. But then like yeah, it gets good engagement or whatever. But then I do like a behind the scenes thing, and that engagement's like way better, and like everyone like likes to see like that stuff more.
Yeah, double. Yeah, there's something really valuable about being able to see how things are created and just be able to experience that. So like I said, you're a perfect example of that. I mean, it's a big deal to me to take time to just to like connect and get to know the people at the wedding and find out, you know, like who is this dude that's giving this speech and why, right? Like why him?
I still asking.
It turns out you were just hired from Craigslist.
Pretty much.
Like the day before the wedding.
At this point, like I'm like a wedding crasher now.
Yeah. 5 in one summer. Yeah. I mean, you should probably be billing for this. I actually think you should probably invoice Mike and Christina and just see if they'll pay.
I should, but since he's like almost a doctor, he'll bill me for my WebMD questions.
But don't send those over to him. You can't trust that. Almost a doctor, man. At least wait until he graduates.
Yeah, and then what advice would you give to like a young photographer coming up?
Oh man, bail. No, man, I'll say this: like, the older I get, the more I realize that, man, the human body is just, it's just like fascinating. Anything that we do in repetition, it doesn't matter what it is, just literally anything that we do in repetition, we get good at. So if you win all the time, if all you do is win, you get good at winning, man. And if you're self-deprecating or you stand in your own way, you get good at doubting yourself. And if you think you're going to grab a camera and roll out and take pictures that not only you're stoked about, but other people are going to pay a lot of money for, but not practice, then somebody that's probably half as talented as you, but more committed to just the art of practice will pass you in a hurry. And so, I mean, that's where I would say we have a lot of people, because of my association with Fujifilm and some of the teams that I'm on, the social teams that I'm on. A lot of people will write me, you know, a year or 2 years into their career and say like, "Hey, how do I get endorsed?" And I'm like, man, you just got to get better work. I mean, you've got to work more. So I've shot probably on average somewhere in the realm of 4,000 to 6,000 photos a week, every week for over 10 years. So, I mean, dude, if I wasn't taking beautiful photos at that point, I'm like a massive failure. All right. Like, man, I really suck if you don't get good at it by then. So I think that success is often a byproduct of just ambition and practice. So that's what I would tell. I mean, not just photographers, I'd tell anybody, you know, like if you don't want to miss free throws, then stop missing them. Like that's, you know, that like there's the key to life. If you want more money in your checking account, then stop spending it. Like get better at making it.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then I checked out your website too. So I think like possibly if this is correct, like on the dates was the actual weddings of I think it was like blogs. You kind of like posted. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't post every wedding doesn't get blogged. I'm saying
the date of it was from the wedding, the actual wedding date. Is that what it was?
No. It's just the date that I posted that I blog about it, because there's a lot of blogs in there as well about that are like tips and tricks and stuff for photographers or whatever.
I was about to compliment you again, but I guess I can't now.
Well, go for it. I'll take it, and then I'll just retract my last comment.
No, because I thought those were the ones that like, so say it said like September 1st. So I was thinking that wedding happened September 1st, and I was like, wow, you got it done already in that time frame.
Oh no, I am like I'm you know, on my other screen right now. I'm looking at a wedding that was 3 weeks ago, and it'll be done by tomorrow. Yeah, so we usually run under a month. I mean, that's a big problem with our industry right now, is photographers that just overcommit themselves. And they take 6 or 8 months to get stuff out, you know? You need to, we always laugh. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get your photos back to you before your first fight, but I hope I can get them back to you before your second. So you got to power through that first fight, but by the time you're on that second fight, hopefully you have some pictures to look at.
Yeah, for sure. And then, what is it like? Because I know with computers and stuff, like, what is it like for you, like equipment wise, and like just getting stuff, like what programs do you use and things like that? Because I know, like, even like yesterday, I used Dropbox and it stopped letting me use shared links for some reason because the bandwidth. And I was like, what is this? I was like, I never seen this before.
Yeah, no way, man. So I'll preface it. The only like nerd talk thing I'm gonna say is, I'm shooting the absolute most tech advanced camera ever released. Is a Fujifilm large format digital, called the GFX 100 or the 100S. We shoot both of them, and each individual file is over 100 megabytes before it's edited. And so, when we're delivering 1,000 files to a client, you're looking at, dozens of gigs of uploaded and then downloadable material. And the backups alone, are typically for a wedding or somewhere in the realm of 700 to 800 gigabytes. So we're pushing close to a terabyte per wedding. So by the time I get these things edited down, the importance of efficiency, of like a clean workflow that means that I never lose anything, I don't misplace anything, I can understand and easily get to weddings from 2009 or 10 and still get to the files if I needed them for some reason. That's the critical piece. So we're using Lightroom for the vast majority of the editing work. And then Photoshop and a plugin program called Luminar AI is doing a lot of the processing work for me. All of it's done by hand though. Like everything is, there's no bulk processing. So every image is touched, edited individually, one at a time. And it takes a long time. It's a big commitment for each wedding. It's one reason why I limit the number of weddings that I take, so I can kind of do it right. But then we have a server program. The one that we're using right now is actually called Zenfolio. And I've got 780,000 files that I've delivered over the last 12 years now, organized in there. And it's like Dropbox on steroids, but it's a lot prettier. So it's a much easier way to catalog, organize everything, send individual links and all that type of stuff. But we're about to move over. I think I just had a really cool call the day before yesterday, actually. I think I'm going to be signing on as an ambassador for a new company called PickTime. And it's a similar thing. It's just a cleaner user interface, and there's a number of them out there. But yeah, I mean, if you're just trying to deliver a few photos here and there, Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever work, but you're going to end up with more errors than I think you end up success rates, because that's just, for whatever reason, it's like anytime you're over like 25 or maybe 50 files, it's like it can't hang. The download, the bit rates just can't hold, and your bandwidth just gets sucked up and it dies, so.
Yeah, for sure. Last photography question. What's your take on watermarks?
You want me to be like real candid? Can I get can I get real blunt?
This is average to savage. This is unfiltered.
Let's go. Okay. If I were to go and buy my wife, let's use it that way. Pick your designer. I don't care. If I were to go drop 10 grand on some designer dress and it had a logo on it, I would be pissed. Yeah. My thought on a watermark is this: if you are so desperate for people to know that you shot that picture, you probably didn't do a good enough job taking it. On the flip side of
bars.
That, what's that?
I said bars.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, if you can take an image that, even if you handed somebody the same light, the same camera, the same setup, the same gear, and they couldn't recreate it, they couldn't figure you out, then they're left asking, who the hell took this picture? And the best compliment you'll ever get is when your client says your name voluntarily. So yeah, don't watermark your stuff, man. That stuff's over. I mean, like, we all remember, like, I don't, God, like remember the hoodies that said Gap real big on the front?
Yeah.
That's all I can think about. when I see somebody's watermark images, and I'm like, oh yeah, you are Old Navy right now. Like, all right.
So I'll tell you why I brought that up, because I've let's see, like in the past, I had like friends and things like that, kids that I went to college with, just do some photography for me for free because they wanted to do it, get started and things like that.
Yeah.
So they put their little watermark, so I didn't care. But then if I pay somebody, there's no way you're putting your watermark on my photos. And like one guy did, and it was like huge. It wasn't even a little one, like in the corner. It was like a huge one. I was like, bro, this like looks terrible. Like, first of all, in general. And I was like, how don't you? And I was like, nah. And then he was just like, oh, I deleted the files already. I was like, nah, you got to find those because I just paid you to do this.
Yeah, that's just not a thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love to have the conversation with people to explain to them the way copyright works, and like how that type of stuff happens. So, anybody that pays me, like a bride and groom, right? Like Christina and Mike, they pay me to come in and shoot this beautiful wedding in New York, and we go for it. They're their wedding photos because they're their memories, but they're my intellectual property. They don't own those images in any way whatsoever. I allow them to use those images in perpetuity. They can have a blast with them, but legally those are my photos.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating to me is like a watermark doesn't make that more legal. Like it doesn't change that at all. So my clients all know that I'm like, hey, here's how this works. I'm going to give you these files in full resolution. And I'm just going to ask you, like, don't make money on them. Don't sell your wedding photos to like iStock or something cheesy like that. Just enjoy them. But I'm not going to put a watermark. It's a tacky way. Like I said, it's a desperate way to ask for attention. Yeah. So do better.
Yeah,
just
the other thing, like I don't care about tagging the people in it. Because
why not? Honestly, isn't that a better shout out?
Yeah.
Like to me, it's such a good shout out. When somebody posts an image and then other people have the opportunity to go over and click my name and be like, oh, this dude took it. Yeah. As opposed to like, they're looking and they're like, what does that say? And but it never fails, man. The watermark always has some kind of cheesy camera in it. Like everybody's watermark is like the same dude whose logo has like a camera built into it. And like the name of the company is like, Eclipse Productions or something. Come on, like just grow up, do better stuff. That's what I'll say. There you go.
I like that. Actually one more photography question. I don't know. Did you see when, the photographer was trying to sue LeBron James for using his picture of LeBron? Yeah. So what's your take on that?
I ended up getting into a relatively similar situation a few years ago with nobody is as well known as LeBron, but an equally well known person used my photos for a major TV show. And yeah, dude, we lawyered up pretty hard on that one. He didn't have permission to do it. And everything came out like, well, how did he get the photos? In the first place, did he steal the photos? And I said, no, I sent them to him. Like we have these threads back and forth that say like, hey, I wanted you to see these. That doesn't mean that I'm giving you like carte blanche to use them. And so, yeah, I think, it never went to court. I'll say that because everybody on both ends knew what the law is. The law is like, you have to pay for that stuff. And there isn't a jury on earth that's going to side with the like uber wealthy athlete who just took advantage of like the, starving artist, which isn't exactly me, but you know what I'm saying.
Like posting on social media, that's illegal.
As long, if you tag the photographer, it's not. But if you post an image without giving any kind of photo credit, it actually is because it's it's intellectual property of the person. Now, whether or not they pursue that or not, social media is also kind of a weird gray area because simply by posting on Instagram, you're actually giving Instagram rights to those images as well. Which is like another really unique thing, you're sharing rights with them. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in that, but you'll see this when I finish Christina and Mike's wedding. Dude, I guarantee you're going to get a link to it. You know, they're going to pass the link around. And even though I'm going to send them this long email that says like, hey, share it, have fun. You know, do me a favor. If anybody posts some, please ask them to tag me. Yeah. People won't. Or, you know, even 5 years from now, they're going to post an anniversary image and they won't, and they'll forget. And I'm not going to get bent out of shape about it or be like weird and passive aggressive. Like, we just have more stuff to do, man. There's better work to be done than to spend my life angsty against the people that paid me to be there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you ready for some fun questions?
Let's go. What's fun?
All right, what I know you said you grew up playing soccer. Do you have a favorite soccer team?
Oh, Ronaldo. Oh,
Ronaldo.
Team. Oh, well, he is a team,
Ronaldo, the team. Yeah,
Ronaldo is a team, man.
I mean, he gets paid more than the whole team, so yeah.
Yeah, and he should, by the way. I actually I'm a really big PSG fan. I'm kind of on the fence about this PSG thing with Messi. I like Messi. Don't get me wrong, everybody. Before you like climb all over me, but I think a lot of how I think of LeBron, which is like I'm not a big fan of the brand of LeBron James, and I'm not a huge fan of the brand of Messi. But yeah, I'm a big PSG fan. Man, Neymar and Mbappe are just crazy. I mean, it's gonna be cool to see what they do this year, but I don't think they needed it.
You're probably not gonna believe me, but since we were just talking about legal and all that, PSG actually sent me a postcard mail in 2012 when I was trademarking PG Sports because they thought it was confusing to PSG, like PGS. But they don't at that time. I don't know if they do. They don't own any trademarks in the U.S., so they couldn't do anything anyways. And it was
John. You nailed it. You stuck it to the man there.
Yeah. So I actually want to find that postcard because I think it had because I want to just post it just because like the Messi thing and they kind of blew up now again. But yeah, that was a weird scenario, and I was like confused because it came in like half French, half in English.
You know, is this from Canada? Yeah, dude. I really do. I love PSG. I love Man U. Not a big Liverpool fan. I just don't love the brand of soccer. But as far as like international soccer goes, yeah, dude. Gosh,
do you follow the MLS or no?
No. Can I just be like super blunt? So my son plays.
So what do you think? What do you think the key is for them to like actually get Americans to watch MLS versus watching European soccer? Like
Premier League? The thing is like the MLS has to stop being the place that really famous players go to retire.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be able to attract young talent, and there is some. Like Pulisic is a beast, but I mean, like there's some American players that are really well known and are doing some really good things, but I don't think that the culture of MLS soccer, like even when you see an MLS game, it feels like this weird like bastardized version of soccer. There's like lights and like loud music and all of the like foghorns, and it's like, man, is this a DJ Khaled concert or are we going to actually play soccer today? I don't know. So that's my 2 cents. My son, my 9-year-old, plays actually on a club team that feeds all the way up to Kansas City Sporting. So he plays on one of their downline clubs, and that has changed things for me a little bit. I've started watching some KC Sporting games because it's cool to watch the way like the director of coaching for my son's club is learning from all the way from like the pro club level down.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm not against MLS. It's just, it just feels, it's kind of like, I know a lot of like avid baseball fans that wouldn't watch a AAA game to save their life. And it's like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't watch it on TV, but I would go in person.
Yeah. Yes, dude. Absolutely. Go have a beer and cheer for soccer players.
I don't know who you guys got. You guys definitely have to have some minor league team, but you guys don't have any pro teams, right? Arkansas.
No majors. We've got a couple pretty close to here. There's actually a local minor league team, the Naturals, that feed the Royals.
Gotcha.
And so they're kind of a part of that, and they're fun to watch. Grew up a big Yankees fan, so.
So Jeter got inducted yesterday.
I know. And thank goodness, man.
Jordan was there. Oh, it was sick. Like
huge moment, right? Yeah, huge moment in sports, just all the way around. Can I ask really quick though, because you're in this space, why why is the PSG jersey Jordan? What on earth does Jordan have to do with European soccer? Can we get there?
Because he's a beast.
I mean, yeah, I'm there. I agreed. I absolutely agree with you. I think I have more memes that go back and forth between me and my team that have Jordan in them than like anything else. And almost all of them are making fun of LeBron. But
I mean, yeah, so he's brand. I mean, it's in NASCAR too. He sponsors NASCAR drivers.
Yeah,
and
I know. It just feels weird to me. I don't know why.
I mean, Jeter was like I think Jeter, did he get his own logo? No, he didn't get his own logo. Never mind. I was thinking about Ken Griffey had the swing man.
Yeah. And honestly, I could see Jeter getting like
But yeah, I mean, how savage
he deserves
is
a foot in that space.
I
think A-Rod deserves a foot in that space as much as Jeter does personally, but
yeah, for sure. But how savage is it that you get to put a basketball logo on baseball people, like in their sport, baseball people, soccer people, NASCAR, like it's so random.
That's what I'm saying. I just think it's weird. The only reason I ask, I just bought my son the like $140 Messi jersey for a 9-year-old, which is absurd, by the way. But it's weird to me that like the home jersey is Jordan and the away jersey is Nike, but the away jersey has pink on it, so he wouldn't be caught dead wearing it, even though I think it's really dope.
Yeah. No, I don't know the exact reason. I'll have to look it up. But last question. I know you said I think you shot 42 or 43 states or something. What are the states that you haven't? Which one like do you really want to go to? And then what's like a country that you haven't shot in that you want to shoot in?
Man, I haven't shot in like Montana, Wyoming, kind of that corner of things.
That would probably be dope too, because they got dope, like settings and
exactly. I'm like, somebody that's listening to this, take me.
That's where
to
Kanye
Montana.
went to go for his.
I don't know if that's the greatest recommendation right now, but that's fine.
Oh yeah, that's how this. By the way, that's how this podcast all got started. When you said, "Yo, when's the last time Nelly had a better album than Kanye?" And then I wanted to see I said, "Oh, why? What'd you think of the Nelly album?" Because I wanted to see, because Nelly's my favorite.
He slayed it.
Yeah,
he crushed it, man. He crushed it in country too, alongside some of the bigger names in country. And by the way, if I can just go on the record and say the actual answer to when was the last time Nelly had a better album than Kanye has been every single Nelly album except for College Dropout.
All right, I'll take it.
Like Kanye is a one-hit wonder. The only reason any of us know how good Kanye is because he tells us. Like, anyway, that's my 2 cents. But
all right, so dream country to shoot in. You're gonna shoot
Thailand, Norway.
All right.
New Zealand. Yeah, those three would be right at the top. Norway, I've got a couple that has like claimed Norway, but we were supposed to go there the last year and COVID hit and it just hasn't bounced back enough yet. Like those countries are still kind of struggling their way through how travel works and whether or not things are efficient. And so, but man, a killer wedding in Thailand would be unreal.
Yeah.
But it would require the right couple and not some like weird sweaty dude that is going to be like gross and nasty right off. By the way, that is me, just so we can be clear, but I don't have to be in front of the camera.
Yeah, for sure.
I need like a skinny hipster kid to go to Thailand.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming, and could you let the listeners know where they can follow you at?
Yeah, dude. Thank you. I appreciate the invite. Honestly, this is cool. The only podcasts I'm ever on are like super nerdy photography podcasts, and they all just want to talk about my lighting kits and stuff like that. So it's cool to chat with somebody about sports and more real stuff. Yeah, my name is Miles Witt Boyer, 2 T's, and dude, at Miles Witt Boyer on literally everything, or just Google that and it'll get you to pages and pages and pages of ways to get in contact with me.
And I actually forgot to ask you, I've been seeing I don't know if you're deciding to start a podcast or you're doing it and you're just teasing everybody. So tell me
the latter.
Tell me about that. The last thing.
The latter. Yeah, dude. So, I mean, it's been kind of in the making for a while. Yeah. So, I actually was a part of one for a while, with a couple of other pretty well-known photographers. But the problem was that trying to get all 4 of us, it was like an around the horn type concept, and it was just way too hard to schedule it. It was super dope when it worked, but it's just way too hard to schedule it. my one of the guys that works for me, Jared, is this brilliant sound engineer. The guy's he's a freak, and so he and I have decided that it's kind of go time. So really short hitting, like 12 to 15 minute, quickly digestible concepts for people up leveling their photography careers. So yeah, super That's easy. Dope. I don't know. I don't want to be an entertainer, man. I don't have time for it. So I'll leave that to you.
No, I'm not one of those.
You and your dope groomsman speeches. I think you should start selling those.
This is my side gig.
Yeah, your hustle. I think you should start selling your groomsman speeches.
All right, I'll write them. I'll
be like package those up.
Short and sweet groomsman speeches by Paul.
Better. It was your delivery that was so good, man. Don't even write them. Just
all right. Well, I need the pictures, because then they're just going to be fire. Then I'm just going to be like, this is the best speech of my life.
That's it. But just pre-record them, and then just ask the guy, like the groomsman, to just like hold a little recorder up to the mic, and then I think that'd be good.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate it, and it was great to meet you, and I'll let you know when this releases. And
let me know, man. I appreciate it. Have a good day. All right.
This episode has been brought to you by busr.com. Go check it out to get your free $100 bet when you deposit $100 at busr.com/Paul.